He's one of those people that when someone meets him for the first time and like we're at a party or whatever, then he leaves, they'd be like, well, I don't understand why that guy hates my guts. And you're just like, no, he doesn't hate you. Like, that's just his face.
I was incredibly intimidated, as I think most people are when they first meet him. He looks like he's grumpy, and maybe he is grumpy, but it's got nothing to do with you.
I mean, he's really personable, but he's got that kind of like hard edge.
There's the impression you have of him when you first meet him, and he extends his hand, and you just see the word draw tattooed right across his knuckles, and it's just like, man, this dude is for real.
I think he comes off as very serious at first, but then when you get to know him, he's like an incredible goofball.
Yeah, he's the grit. He's the grit wizard.
I've always loved comics. I've been reading comics since I was a kid. There's things you can only do in comics. There's things you can only do on a page. There's things you can only really do with words and images juxtaposed together. There's something about just sitting down, coming up with an idea and sitting down and drawing it and making it and having it done that is really powerful.
It's like a crack or something, and I've smoked crack. When you finish a drawing, I mean, that's what I swell with pride when I finish a drawing, and then about an hour later I look at it and I'm like, this fucking thing. I've been drawing all my life. I have drawings that I did when I was like 4 years old that are, not great, but it's a rhinoceros and it vaguely looks like a rhinoceros. And I remember, I've always been into comics. My dad was into comics when he was a kid, so he always would buy me comics and stuff. So I was reading comics before I could even read. School was probably a big help in my drawing because I hated it so much that I would just sit and draw in class constantly all day and get in trouble for it.
I'll put the grog flyers onto that.
Okay, yeah.
Hardware.
Cool. I actually met Jake Kelly when I think I was probably 15 and he was maybe 16.
There weren't a lot of freaky kids, and he was kind of, like a punky, BMX dude. So, whatever 3 or 4 freak kids there were in Fairview immediately gravitated to each other.
He was a really good illustrator even then. And I drew, but it wasn't, my primary focus as a teenager. I spent a lot more time being a hooligan, and I think he was much more dedicated to being an artist and a musician and, just a punk rock weirdo.
We hung out, got in trouble in art class, cut school on Red Day, that kind of stuff. But he was only there for a year or so, and then he got hurt. We were doing a place called Speak in Tongues. It was like a, crazy illegal show space. And he kind of showed up there.
I think we both did the same thing on like a parallel path. Jake painted a series of fake movie posters that are for fake horror movies of the, like late 60s all the way to the early 80s, including one that was titled The Lake Erie Monster.
I got together with John and I said, why don't you do, make like ephemera for we'll do a whole show of the posters, and then you can make ephemera like, Photoshop old newspaper ads and make VHS covers. And one of the things he did was a fake comic book adaptation of the Lake Erie Monster. And we were just driving around one day, and I don't know which one of us said it. I'll give him credit. It was like, we should really make this comic. We should make the real fake adaptation of the fake movie.
The Lake Erie Monster is it's a quarterly, ongoing horror anthology comic. It's all Cleveland-based stories and Cleveland, Rust Belt horror stories,
So set everything in Cleveland, make it weird, make up all these weird histories, be like, oh yeah, there's monsters everywhere, there's people are fucking disappearing, there's a bus that'll pick you up and kill you. Cleveland is a pretty strange place. You always see some bizarre thing. we were driving down 55th, and there was a guy just sitting in his parked car going, "Ah!" And I was like, see, that's fucking Cleveland right there.
There's something about the actual comic book that people, I think, it like reminds them of how comics used to be.
I love it. It's awesome. It's that throwback style of comic that you're reading this old style horror story, but it's set in a place that you know and love.
Where is it? Which one was this? Signed, hand signed by John G. and Jay Kelly. This will be worth thousands of dollars someday.
Horror comics that I look to for the the true path of suspense and intensity are the creepy and eerie comics of the late 60s and early 70s that Warren published.
I always loved Swamp Thing, still love Swamp Thing. It was sort of strange, you know, I made these tables with these collages of, you know, these Swamp Thing reprints all cut up, and I was kind of examining the images decontextualized from the comic, and I was like, wow, Swamp Thing is always sad and walking away from people. Like, that's the constant motif in Swamp Thing comics, is that he's like, I can't live in your human society. I've got to go. And I was like, I wonder, I don't remember being a 5-year-old kid and like relating to that particular aspect of it, but that must have, you know, had some fucking sway over me. He really captures, you know, really something about Cleveland's essence in like every one of his drawings, because it looks so dirty and stuff, and he's so great about, you know, putting like just little pieces of garbage in the background and stuff, you know, just all those textural elements.
You know, one of the first things I remember really falling for in his drawings were his cityscapes, you know, just like real super, like, just like a bunch of brushstrokes thrown together, and it just has this like this writhing, rusty city feel.
There's something that he reflects in the landscape as a Cleveland painter that's really unique. You know, a lot of the things that a lot of us do are sort of, you know, will reflect the ruins and that, but John almost gives it like sort of like a mythic feeling. Something about his black line is just so distinct and unique and creepy. It almost looks like it was burned rather than it was drawn.
Anytime there's blood in a drawing, like, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to see what it's all about. All Dinosaurs is a 4-piece thrash punk band from here in Cleveland. We've been playing since 2009, and John G, oddly enough, did our very first show poster. By that point, all we had known of him was that he did really awesome show posters for bands that we all really liked, and shows. That was a big deal. Like, if you had a John G poster, you were playing a legit show. What John's done for our band, I think, in more ways than we realize, and earlier than we probably deserved, was establish legitimacy for us. We, at this point, have maybe 14 plus show posters done by him, and a lot of those were done early on when we really hadn't had a chance to make a name for ourselves.
Melt would be a completely different landscape if John G wasn't involved. I mean, John's art is like part of our brand. It's part of what we do.
I say this is actually the first poster John G drew for us. This was going back to the 09, March 09. This was for the Reuben Melt, which we used to run every March.
I mean, he's never struck out. Basically, every time I look at the computer, I give him ideas. We give him the menu descriptions, and I have ideas, and he comes back with certain different ideas, and we kind of collaborate. But I'm always like, I can't wait to see what John's going to come up with. And he, 9 times out of 10, he outdoes himself every month. So he continues to impress me.
Two dudes, two random rock and roll as fuck dudes in town working together to help each other out and have a good time doing it is what it really boils down to. One dude runs his grilled cheese sandwich restaurant. The other guy draws, and they found a way to help each other out in ways that neither of them could have known, possibly known from the start.
But he's probably one of the smartest people that I know, and he has actually, believe it or not, I mean, he's helped us grow the Melt brand so much with his artwork. But he just gives me one-off ideas. He's named probably I'd say he's probably named, and since he started working with me, probably at least 25% of the sandwiches that we roll out, like our monthly specials.
He's great with like popping out, really weird, cool details.
There it is. Baby to chicken wing ratio.
Like I did that story about the kid who fights the kind of melting monster man in the movie theater. And I was like, yeah, I just don't want him to like just fist fight. And he's like, why don't you have him beat him to death with a sock full of batteries? And I was like, yeah, that's the perfect idea. So I was like, all I got to do is add one panel at the beginning where he's at the store buying deodorant and batteries, and it's, and it's all taken care of.
He's this dude that's like making it work for himself. He's doing what he wants to do, and he's making money. He'll just make something and put it out, and make something, put it out, and make something, put it out, and then just like take the feedback and go and just keep going that way. Really, it just needs to be made, and then you have to learn from your mistakes and then keep making it. Because otherwise, if you don't make things, if you just like think about it forever, it's not this tangible thing. It's not something that you've created to put out there. It's not a physical thing. It's just an idea that you had and never did anything about it.
Yeah, when I was 16, I was a BMX, tough guy, and I rode BMX bikes every day, all day, and I was mostly dirt jumping and street riding. This one Saturday, really, one of the first beautiful Saturdays of the year, my friends and I rode our bikes down. Actually, I met them down in the Metro Parks at this tiny little dirt jump that someone carved a lip into, and everyone was having a good time. So just started dirt jumping and wiped out like I did a million times before that, and just I guess I just locked up and flipped over the handlebars and landed on top of my head and shattered my spine at my 5th thoracic bone and cracked my 2nd cervical vertebrae. At first I didn't understand what had happened, so my legs weren't moving, but they were still tangled up in my bicycle. So I tried to get up and I couldn't, and then I told my friends something is wrong, and I had someone pull my bike out from between my legs and kind of tried to sit up again, and I couldn't. And then I touched my stomach, and it was it felt very strange. It wasn't responding, and I could feel my hand touching my abdomen, but not my abdomen touching my hand, and it felt just like I was touching something that wasn't a part of me. When I heard the ambulance coming is when I really actually started to get a little scared. I was like, oh, this is bad.
I guess I was lucky, and I still am pretty lucky that, I didn't know, no one I was close to, died or was, in any catastrophic accidents. So when that happened, it was, I guess sort of disbelief, wait, what? No, I was, shocked and bummed out, It's a friend of yours, and you don't want terrible things to happen to your friends.
My friends looked horrible. They all looked so scared and terrified and worried. I didn't feel like if I could see myself, would I be terrified? I don't know. But I would see them and they looked horrible. And I just thought, oh, I'll be all right. I'll ride a bike again. It's so, just to keep them, from being as terrified. A couple days after I had back surgery, I started to lose feeling in my hands and my arms, and then I stopped being able to move them. I was completely paralyzed from the neck down. I never really got a really good explanation as to why that happened, but it took a long time to get back my mobility down to T5, so I can only feel parts of my arms, my upper chest, my upper back, my shoulders, and that's it. I can't really feel my hands. It's strange. I had to relearn how to write and draw. And I had to relearn how to use my fingers and hands.
I mean, as far as I know, after he got hurt, he basically had to learn how to reuse his hands. And that part of that was, the drawing thing, because he could, he drew before, but he had to relearn how to draw. And I think that became a big, part of his life.
When you're drawing with a brush that's a pressure-sensitive tool and you can't feel your hand, I can tell where it is, I can see it, I can sense it, so I guess I've just had to learn how to do that through trial and error and determination and just having, the will to do it. That's what I do, so that's kind of where that came from. I don't draw fast. I draw hard. One of the things that happens when you can't move or feel anything from the neck down, and you're just sort of in intensive care, laying in a bed, and people are taking care of you, you have a lot of time to think. You know, at least I did. I thought about everything.
I think getting hurt made him reprioritize, maybe.
And I tried to sort of understand, like, why this happened. Like, why did this happen? And if I could have done anything differently, would I? You know, and it's this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I think it happened to me. I mean, there's really no way, like, there's no answer to why, ultimately, you know. And if there is, it's not for us to know, you know. But the conclusion that I came to sort of come to terms with it was the reason why this happened to me is because I can handle it.
He has an ability to, whether he knows it or not, to just inspire and motivate people in ways that you never would have thought going into a conversation with him. So many times I've left that guy's studio or wherever we're hanging out, drinking coffee, just thinking about how I just couldn't believe that I didn't see things this way before talking to him.
He just works, like, really is committed and focused on 100%. You can just tell that this is like what he wants to do. All things that's happened to him, the fact that he had to relearn how to draw like a couple of times, all these things that would put, you know, most people off continuing to do it, especially art making, which, you know, it's so subjective. It's not financially secure. It's such a up in the air thing to freelance yourself for in the first place, for someone who doesn't have all these other obstacles standing in their way, and he just does it and that's it, and there's like no other way of doing things except just to get up and draw some comics and do what you love.
John G is bonkers. That's how I would describe him for sure. He's everywhere, dude. He's got more energy than anybody that I know. He doesn't sleep. He works all the time. I ask him for stuff and I expect it to come in like 2 days and he has it for me in 2 hours.
John knows pretty much everybody. It's like I'm always sort of tagging along and it's like, oh yeah, of course, John knows like every single person in this city. He's like practically runs the place.
It's fun talking to him. It's fun gaining that perspective. And so often he doesn't mean, or at least seem to mean, to give it off. It just kind of comes in talking to him.
Would I do anything different? No, not. If I could go back and say, hey, I know that if you don't do this one thing, if you don't go to the Metro Parks that Saturday, May 13th, 1995, if you don't do that, you'll be okay and you won't be paralyzed, and then who knows what's going to happen. I don't know. There's I probably saved my life by breaking my spine. I may have wiped out the next time I jumped and killed myself. I may have ended up, being okay and being able-bodied, but then, getting in some ridiculous situation and ending up in prison or something, who knows? There's no way to know. So I wouldn't do anything differently. To be honest, it's really, really easy for me to forget. Mostly because I'm pretty independent and I'm capable in a lot of ways that allows me to live a pretty, untethered life to this thing, this disability, this like paralysis. I don't let it dictate to me what I'm gonna do or not do. So if there's something I want to do, I'm going to find a way to do it.